Hare Krishna. Nectar of Devotion by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī, as translated by Śrīla Prabhupada. Chapter 2. The First Stages of Devotion. The three categories of devotional service which Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī describes in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service in practice, there are two different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī later on. So I'd like to comment at this particular point that in the beginning of devotional service, we're in the stage of practice. Now, when you practice something, that means you don't have it perfect. You're just learning. And you're going to make so many mistakes. So in the beginning of devotional service, we're practicing. We're not really doing devotional service. We're practicing, getting ready for real devotional service. So what we're doing is we're basically trying to simulate the state of consciousness that we're going to be in when we become self-realized. And then how are we going to feel, how are we going to act, and so forth. This is devotional service in practice. And there are 2 levels or stages to devotional service in practice, and those are Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Both of them are part of Sadhana Bhakti, or devotional service in practice. Now, in Vaidhi Bhakti, we are motivated by the rules and regulations of the scriptures, the instructions of the spiritual master, and our own experience of our shortcomings in devotional service. And so we're working on those shortcomings, trying to overcome our natural weaknesses and faults, our offenses. And once we pass a certain stage, actually the stage of anartha nivritti, when all the unwanted activities and desires go away due to purification, then we can enter into devotional service on the platform of raganuga, or spontaneous desire for devotional service. Spontaneous devotional service is different because now we're not actually being regulated by the rules, but rather by our own internal desire for devotional service. So then the next stage, devotional service in ecstasy, this is the madhyama adhikari stage. The first stage, devotional service in practice, is the kanishta adhikari stage. Then madhyama adhikari, in that stage, we're in ecstasy, bhava. And the bhava stage is actually quite deep and complex. And there's 4 stages. We talked about these 4 categories, rather, of or qualities of devotional service in ecstasy in our Sunday Satsang series on bhavas. There are quite a few. There's 33 different sanchari bhavas and so on. Many, many different bhavas. And all these bhavas, or transcendental emotions, are causes of ecstasy. And finally, we attain pure love of Godhead. And devotional service in pure love of Godhead has many, many different qualities and stages and moods and so on. So we're going to discuss all of these later on. In fact, the whole rest of the book is basically the description of the different categories of bhakti in all these different stages. So what you should understand from this is that we're going to start out at the first stages, the very beginning stages of the path of devotion, and then describe all of the steps and stages and moods and qualities leading up to the highest stages of devotion. And that's really going to be the contents of the rest of the book. So now continue reading. In this connection, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotional service to some extent. Even though it's not 100% perfectly performed, whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stop in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in a pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotional service. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is easier than for those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative processes. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to their general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived by his own arguments and decisions. Then another person, who may be a greater logician, will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore recommends that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities. So let me comment on that also. Now, what he's getting at here is the difference between faith and knowledge or experience. We can have faith in something, like a particular religion or particular philosophy, but our faith can change. Either our own experience or the arguments of a superior person or more powerful person can change our conclusion, can change our faith from one system to another system, or from one religion to another system, another religion. So faith or belief, which is the platform of religion, is not really sufficient for steady advancement in devotional service. What we really need is experience. Experience means direct knowledge or consciousness of spiritual life. And this consciousness comes, or this experience, this direct knowing, comes when we simply follow in the footsteps of the authorities. So who are the authorities? They are the gurus in the parampara, or disciplic succession, coming from Lord Krishna. So when we set out on this path, we may have a little bit of faith, but really the only faith that this path demands is sufficient faith to carry out the experiment of doing the practice. And when you do the practice, the direct experience that you will get, the consciousness of transcendental life or connection with God, bhakti yoga. Yoga means connection. So when we connect with Krishna in devotional service, that's bhakti yoga. The direct taste, the experience of that connection is enough to convince us that this path is real. Because every time we do these practices, we immediately get a result. We immediately can feel transcendental enlivenment of our senses and mind. Our consciousness immediately becomes surcharged with devotional energy, with spiritual energy, with love, with ecstasy. So in that way, really what we need on this path is not faith, not knowledge in the conventional sense of book learning, but direct experience and our own knowledge of our own consciousness changing due to devotional service. So here is a general description of devotional service given by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī in his Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be